My name's Fiona Dove. I'm the director of the Transnational Institute in Amsterdam. Well, I came to the seminar to learn about knowledge management. My organisation is a small knowledge organisation that works internationally, and we are struggling with how we put in place systems where we can share knowledge of different types. And I think one of the things that came up for me here at this meeting was, what do we mean by knowledge? And at a very intuitive level, I came to this meeting with an understanding that knowledge was information. And in the course of this, realizing that it's far more than information. Information can simply be data. So it's really about interpretation of the data, analysis of the data, and what you do with the information. So I think what I've found really useful is to think about how one shares knowledge in an organization that is useful for strategic purposes, for checking whether your plans and your operations are still in tune with the real world, but also just simply sharing information about what's being done in the organization, what works well, what doesn't work well. And even down to basic things like what actually is everyone doing. And one often finds, I think, in organizations, people get very stuck in their own projects or in their own pillars, and don't really have the time to reflect or even share basic information across projects within an organization, never mind with the world at large. So it's kind of challenged my very simple way of understanding what knowledge management's about, that it's beyond information management. It's really what you do with that information. We've always understood it in terms of the way we do research, that we want to co-produce the knowledge with our subjects. So that was my understanding of what co-creation or co-production of knowledge was about. And here the discussion centered much more on multi-stakeholder forums and dealing with a lot of other actors with whom you don't necessarily want to make the change. Although I'm doubting as I say that, because that was also kind of challenging to think that through and think, if you're going to go into a co-creation process, you need to have a common goal. Otherwise, I'm not sure that it can work, because you will have inevitable conflicts, or you're going to have to make compromises that you might not want to have to live with. So I think for me, a kind of basic principle of co-creation then would be that you must go in with a common aim. Understand that there will be some negotiation, some compromise, but at least there's a kind of baseline that you agree. So yes, it was kind of interesting to explore it beyond simply working with the research subjects, if you like, and look at it more in terms of co-creating knowledge at the level of what works and what doesn't work, and do that with different actors who are part of making development projects work. That was interesting. Well, that was very useful in the seminar, was that before we got into what can seem a very abstract concept, we were talking about things like the shifting balance of power in the world, the rise of new economies, new countries, new powers, Brazil, India, China, and so forth, and what that means for development. And out of that, it's a really interesting discussion from many different angles, but it's also important from a strategic perspective, because it makes you think about what kind of knowledge do we need to be acquiring to position ourselves well and strategically for this new world that is currently being shaped, and what role is there for development as we've known it in that new configuration, and therefore what kind of knowledge do we need to acquire or consolidate or analyze in order to act in a more relevant way for this new context.